Good morning. This is Oscar Sampu reporting to you live from the Brick Arts Media TV studio in downtown Brooklyn. Welcome to the show. Throughout the course of this past weekend, we had weather here in New York City that was absolutely dangerous. I'm not a guy that has respiratory problems, but I do have to tell you that at one point, mid afternoon on Saturday, I was moving through downtown Brooklyn, and I had probably, I'd say roughly, I walked the expanse of 3 to 4 blocks. And at the completion of my doing so, I felt that I was in a state where I needed to call an ambulance. For the most part, I'm pretty healthy for a 54-year-old guy. I've had some injuries, things that have transpired, but overall, I'm very solid. I felt that I was in danger. I don't have asthma, I don't have cardiac problems. My respiratory system, as I was last informed 2 years ago, was in outstanding condition, but I felt like I was a victim of asphyxiation. The air quality was so poor, it was almost as thick as a piece of steak. You needed a knife to cut through it. We have here in New York City an atmospheric chemistry that at best I would just describe as stagnant. The air just sits here and it doesn't go anyplace. We have 10 million people. We have a variety of vectors bringing in gases, and not only from the atmosphere, but releasing them once again into the atmosphere. And when you bring all that together, what you have is what I would consider simply a hodgepodge of danger. Here we are, a city of 10 million people, poor air quality and 97 degrees. Under ideal conditions, I would just sum it up as a deodorant day. But nonetheless, the hospital emergency rooms were very busy. Cooling centers were very busy. And a lot of people were distressed by weather conditions. And we had quite a few blackouts throughout the 5 boroughs. I'm very fortunate to say that I'm in a sector of Brooklyn that wasn't not affected, but a number of areas throughout the borough were affected by the blackout. And as a result of that, many people lost power, and they didn't have power for some time. Needless to say, when there's no electricity, you might not have a means of communicating with people. Your refrigerator's not functioning, so the foods that you have in there will start to decompose. And if you don't have a gas stove, or you have a propane gas tank that you can use with a grill, you have no means of preparing food, so you're losing money and you're losing your source of nutrition as well, which also can be very dangerous. I felt at one point that all I needed to do is what I ultimately did do, and that was just vegetate. I was like a vampire for the most part. Beyond going out Saturday afternoon, I didn't venture out thereafter until 7:30 in the evening. And even at 7:30, there were a number of events that were supposed to take place throughout the city, but Mayor de Blasio canceled them, and I'm grateful to him for having done so. It is very important as we move through this time of very unprecedented atmospheric conditions. Throughout the country, there has been a series of heat waves that have affected more than 115 million people throughout the United States. That's almost half the population. As an outstanding example, we'll look at what has happened in the last month in Alaska. 3 weeks ago in Juneau, Alaska, it hit 110 degrees. For that state, that is unprecedented because for the most part in Alaska, it really doesn't get above 71, 72 degrees. 110 degrees, that's a 40-degree variation, and needless to say, very dangerous. Just looking at how I reacted physiologically to 97 degrees here in the city, if you added on another 10 to 12 degrees, I can only imagine the results. I remember several years ago, 10 years ago, I was working outdoors, and it was 95 degrees that day. And the person that I was working for, upon my completion of the job, just handed me my money and said, "Leave." I walked a block away and I walked into the lobby of an air-conditioned building, and I stayed there for an hour. It took me an hour and 25 minutes just to walk 4 blocks. And I realized at that time that if I had stayed outside 5 more minutes, it is not inconceivable that I would have had a heat stroke. Regrettably, last week we lost a member of the NFL, Max Petras, Super Bowl champion, 32 years of age, retired from the NFL, a young man who was a community leader. He was somebody that was very instrumental in inspiring young people and a person that we would all want to know. And he passed at the age of 32 as a result of heat stroke. He was working in his parents' backyard. He felt ill. They took him to the hospital. They arrived there at 9:30 in the evening, and he expired before midnight. It's very important to realize that the human body is very fragile. An NFL guy is a strong guy, but the sun, in many ways, is like the ocean. No matter how strong you are, they can beat you. Nature is always stronger because we are a derivative of it. It is not a derivative of us. There is something to be said about humility when it comes to the atmosphere. Whatever you do, please, throughout the course of the next several weeks during the summer, whenever the temperature is extremely high, stay hydrated, make sure you have a generous amount of electrolytes in your system, and seek out atmospheres that, if not air conditioned, are heavily fanned. Be well, and I will speak with you shortly. God bless you. Stay safe and stay hydrated. I will speak with you momentarily. Blessings.